Okay, so now we're recording. Happy day after Labor Day. Audio quality is good, can understand you well. Great. As I just said, I malfunctioned and I don't have my headset with me. So I'm glad that you can hear me all right. We are now recording. And I see we've got 22 people here. So that is great. The agenda for tonight. Let me open this in another page. Let me see. So the agenda tonight, I know it says housekeeping. Timing of discussion posts. So in past classes, especially this past summer, lots of people, well, some people would wait until the end of the week to post, and then there wasn't much discussion. But you guys are great. There's lots of early and good discussion. I'm very pleased. I hope you are getting a lot out of the discussion. There's a lot that's being shared. And even if you participate early, I hope you take the time and go back and read the other comments. I think there's a lot. You might be able to connect with some other people here and solve some of your similar problems together. So, let's see what else is on. And tonight we're going to review lesson 2 in the Bernard book. And we will look at the results of the poll and talk about the worst practices, the Gardner reading. That's it. Tonight is a little bit light. But looking forward to next week, we will have a guest speaker. Susan Kopek from Ford will be joining us. She's a former student. She was in my class a year ago in 871. And she will be sharing Ford's journey on EA, regarding EA and how they have come to value EA. Many of you might be aware that EA is always having to prove its value, like many other aspects in the organization. And and that can be a tough sell, as a variety of you commented in the discussions. So Susan will share some of her experiences, and she will take your questions, and I hope that you have many. So she's a fellow student. She's about a year ahead of where you are in the EA program. So without further ado, so chapter 2, because we have people with different backgrounds and different backgrounds and different knowledge, I just spend the early part of this semester talking about some basics. And if it's a review for some of you, terrific. Great. And if not, that's why we're doing it. So this chapter talks about structure, organizational structure, and cultural aspects of the organization. And we look to see the differences between an organization and an enterprise. I believe I was searching for that slide last week as I breezed through the PowerPoint, and it's in this week's chapter, not last week. So, and look at, we will talk about several different models of organizations in how to view organizations, and we will look at structure and culture. All right, so why is it important to understand the people side of EA? Anyone? Besides what's on the slide. Extra points for participation. Not really.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Hi, it's Scott. I said, I think in my discussion focus questions, I forget where I put it, but people are important because that's why we do EA, right? It's people are what make the enterprise the enterprise. Without the people, then kind of what else do we do, right? We're designing architectural systems or applications or whatever it is to support their strategic initiatives, right? So we're doing this for the people. Otherwise, why would we do it?
Okay, someone else. Jonathan.
Yeah, so one of the things that I put in was that by understanding people and understanding the culture, in a lot of cases, you can come up with ways in order to effectively communicate and get people to buy into the concepts that you're trying to present. And so you give yourself a better chance of success developing and promoting and getting buy-in on your EA structures when you understand the people that you're trying to communicate with and what their goals and their ways of thinking are.
Well said, both. Okay, great. Of course, right. One of the key aspects of successful EA venture is being able to sell it to the stakeholders and communicate with the stakeholders. So communication, we will see throughout the course time and again, communication is very important and it can cause a lot of problems. And who are we communicating with? We're communicating with people, of course. So, now, in discussion comments, it's come up where EA sits within the organizational structure. And so let's talk about different structures of organizations. With my undergrads, we talk about, so I had an entire course in my doctorate on organizational structure, which was amazing to me, but I found it fascinating, and that was a long time ago, but I still remember an entire course. So there's really a lot to the structure of organizations. So some very familiar structures in organization is the functional structure, the horizontal structure, the divisional structure, the matrix structure. We probably have experienced either personally or are familiar with those structures. But in this chapter, we look at organizational structure a little bit, more conceptually. So the Levitt-Diamond model is, I've studied that. And it's been around since, I believe, the 1960s. Levitt, let's just look at the picture. Okay, so see why it's called the diamond model. So there's structure, there's organizational structure, there's the work that's being done, the tasks, people, and the technology. And Levitt theorized that if any one of these four aspects change, because they're all connected and interconnected, the other aspects would need to adjust. The interaction of the components underlies organizational success. A change in any one of these four components will have an effect on the others. And it makes pretty much sense. I am just going to do that. Okay, great. Now, the Parsons model. Parsons identified three general levels that are common to most organizations: technical, managerial, and institutional. And then Thompson built on those ideas of Parsons and added activities at each level. Do I really want to? Okay. So institutional level are broad. And here we see in figure 2.4, here's Bernard's cube. And here we see at least three of these mapped to the cube. So if we're looking at organizational structures and the cube, we can see at the institutional level, we're dealing with the goals and initiatives in an organization and some of the products and aspects of products and services. At the managerial level, where products and services, data and information, processes are in here. At the technical level, in this case, we're looking at systems, applications, and the networks and the infrastructure. So the value of the model, it's a reference for developing EA views of structure and processes for an organization. So we know when we're dealing with different stakeholders, what levels are they at? Where do they interact? What things are they going to be most concerned with? So it helps us target our communications. So then there is a newer model of org structure is the organizational network model. It's flatter, there's less hierarchy, it's more collaborative and independent, and it is designed with a global organization, global competition in mind, extends beyond the organizational boundaries. Because it is flatter, it is more flexible. And you understand the relationship between hierarchy and flexibility? Someone want to give it a stab?
This is Dave Hersher. You can typically make decisions faster if you don't have levels to get approvals and people have to approve things because you can make decisions quicker that way.
Right, exactly. And so a more nimble organization has less sign-offs, less levels in it, less levels for approval. So the ONM, to those in the know, the organizational network model, describes how organizations operate in this more global online business environment. More cooperative teams, greater efficient, moving layers of management. Executive team sets policy and goals, approves resources, and evaluates results. But otherwise, semi-autonomous functional teams and independent workers. So the picture looks like this. So we have policy being set here, strategies, those institutional things are set up here, and then we have teams that execute. And teams and some independent workers. And so where are those teams located? Anywhere within the organization, and they cross organizational boundaries as well. That's the global nature.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So I know you mentioned that this is sort of a newer model. I work at kind of an old school company for the last 2 years, and we have the same model. Do people who work in this model find that EA is more of a challenge without a hierarchy? I'm just curious because I have a hard time with it where I'm at based on this model. So I was just curious if anyone else had experiences.
Anyone, someone. Either they don't know what structure their organization is in, do you know? Or go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is Marcia.
Hi,
I
Marcia.
think that organizations can have like hybrid models depending on their needs.
Mhm.
Like the organization I'm in is an order organization, and because it's a lab environment, we actually have to have people on the ground and have to have a hierarchical model. But then when we get to other areas like billing or client services where we don't have to have a physical presence, we tend more towards that operational network model. And I think depending on the flexibility and the needs of the organization, it kind of determines what model is going to work best.
Well, I would just jump in there and say it should determine.
Yeah.
It should. And yes, you brought up a very good point, hybrid. Most organizations are a hybrid structure. And so for part of the organization, it may be by function. And other parts, it may be this network model or divisional, right? There's usually some centralized activities, and those are usually based on function, like human resources. Let's see what Jonathan Lotman has to say. Case in point from today at my work, we had a meeting between IT, our CEO, and the CEO of the company that acquired us. And we asked a question about technology sharing and collaboration between our organization, and our CEO suggested that we run it up or to our CIO, who would relay it to their CIO and back down their chain. There was a collective mental facepalm. Yes, that's a great example. Thank you, Jonathan. Great example. Yeah, that's like not really efficient, right? So the whole idea with a horizontal or flatter structure is you increase efficiency, you create increase collaboration and communication, which impacts efficiency. Let's see. Emil, we have a similar model. There is a challenge, yes, but of a different nature. Ability to orchestrate the multiple teams is the skill set, a la a conductor can bring this model to its highest. A conductor, like a project manager, a portfolio manager. Teams, okay. Lacking that or some degree of that, confusion, stagnation, or waste can happen. That has been my experience. All right. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Rosalie, this is Scott Hortman, or Billy Hortman. Yes, ma'am. So our EA teams at CENTCOM, we function,
Okay.
it is a hybrid model. So it's more like the Parson-Thompson hierarchical type structure that we try to work in within our organization. However, we also support the higher DoD work, where think of like the joint staff would be like the executive team, and they drive functional teams, which are enterprise architects from combatant commands around the world. Now, we actually, working as a functional team, our EA support is more, I think, truer, closely aligned with what we're trying to get after as enterprise architects in the organizational network model than it is in our efforts to support our internal organization, which is more hierarchical and structured. So we are employed, even though our organization is more hierarchical, we are employed in both ways. We have two different functions, and the one that feels the cleanest with the EA tenets, as we see even in our textbook, is one where we do our work in the distributed network type model.
Nice. Thank you. Did you write about that in the discussion?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Are you? Wait, we have a number of people that are affiliated with the government. Are you in the reserve? Or is that someone else?
No, ma'am. I'm retired military, but
Retired military.
Yes, ma'am.
Someone is in the works in the reserves and wrote about that too. So okay, great. Let's see. Lots of comments over here. Meghna, are you here?
Yes, Rosalie.
Oh, great. Hi.
Hey.
Keep me up to date on the comments too, please. And this is Tracy Whiteman. Tracy, we have centralized teams for IT, HR, and accounting. Right. Okay. We are working to establish standardized functionality for the various project teams. Think about the federal government. I am in federal. Well, what do I think about the federal government? I think lots of things about the federal government. In regards to EA, how about the federal government people chime in? So we just had one, Billy. Anyone else here? Don't be shy.
I think Udaya has a question. His hand is raised.
DHS, kind of structure and federal, I'm thinking. Okay, in the Marine Corps. Okay, there's Chris. In the Marine Corps, we use centralized command, rank hierarchy, and decentralized control, which allows junior officers to freely make decisions as long as they are within the scope of the commander's intent. And there's the rub, right? As long as you are within the scope of the commander's intent. Right. So we see a bunch of hybrid structures. Can you unmute me? You can unmute yourself, can't you?
I think Rosalie, because there was some noise in the mic, probably it was muted. So probably. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I am able to speak. This is
Okay,
Sudhir.
you have the power. I would just because
I
there was
just
background noise.
I just realized I will unmute after I speak. So regarding the federal structure, I'm thinking like it's a kind of hybrid, but I'm not clear. It's more hierarchical because of the government nature. But maybe recent Agile and Scrum approaches made some parts of the teams as a network model kind of thing, but mostly it is hierarchical. I am thinking maybe you can help by your experience, but I am not clearly thinking what kind of it may be a kind of hybrid, but I am not clear on that. So still I am trying to look back at my organization.
Yes, I can't give specifics related to DHS. Is anyone else hearing work for DHS or have experience? I think Chris makes a good point that it's and for the Marines, it's centralized and decentralized.
Yeah, to some extent, high levels are more hierarchical.
Mm-hmm.
Where I am working at lower level, software development level, maybe where I am, it looks like they are making more network model kind of thing where everybody is treated equally to participate in the agile teams and do the scrum development, not like clearly hierarchical. So as teams at the lower level, we feel more of network model, but at the higher level, we feel it is more hierarchical.
That makes sense. Thank you.
But definitely, I am going to check with one of my enterprise architects here in DC. I will try to check with them what is their answer. It will be maybe next week. I will try to share more on that.
Great, thanks. So moving along, watch my time here. Okay, moving along. So relating functional teams to EA, just as we did in the other slide of relating the different levels to the cube. We see that teams can relate to the verticals, the lines of business. Okay, so we've been talking about what is the structure of your organization. So if you don't know, do what Udeo is going to do and find out and report back. So organization versus enterprise, I talked about this last week. So Scott Bernard and Gartner, and they'll use the word enterprise, and it just offers more flexibility. Many people think of the enterprise as just the largest, but it's whatever aspect of the organization you want to look at. And he talks about different names for different parts of the enterprise, but I don't really care. Vertical components, vertical complete standalone. Okay, right. So here's segments. So if the different lines of business, let's go back to the picture. There is a picture, right? If the different lines of business use the same framework, then you can look at them. You can look at the EA enterprise architecture across structures because they're tied together with the same framework. Many companies find that they use many different frameworks. And just like using many different ERP systems, for instance, it just makes life difficult. But some organizations are so large that coordination of the same framework across the entire organization doesn't make sense, or it would just be too cumbersome to try to manage. So managing change. So changes, EA brings about, goes hand in hand with change. An EA program is to coordinate change so that it is driven by the new strategies of the business. So the EA program is a coordinator. And it is it's the in between. It's the in between body between the strategy, for instance, and the execution of the strategy. And so enterprise architects help to instantiate coordinated change. And how do we do that? Involve stakeholders, work on communicating, involve stakeholders in the input and the planning and decision making, and manage, as we do with all systems implementations, expectations. Stakeholder involvement includes governance, which we'll get to in a little bit, selection of a framework, reviews, and an EA management plan. If you want to see, if you don't know what an EA management plan looks like, Google or search for the state of Michigan, I don't know, a number of years back. It's out there on the web. They have a very good example of an EA management plan. It's very complete, and you can find the whole thing out there. Managing changes. Okay, all right. Are we good here with this one? Any other comments? All right, here we go. So did you have fun with this? The 13 worst practices?
It was a good read.
Made me twitch a little bit.
Who said that? It made you what? Cringe?
The twitch, yeah, because it just you read it and it conjures up all the memories of living and breathing some of those things, and then seeing people still live and breathe some of those things.
Right. Right. So what do you think I liked what Chris wrote. Gartner's article read like a laundry list of what happened in my company throughout the EA program. The EA team was committed solely to the IT department. All team members were focused on keeping an inventory of IT resources and spent more time updating that repository rather than focusing on achieving a future vision. No communication came out of the EA team, and there was little effort to merge business strategy from outside departments with an EA plan. This resulted in EA being viewed as a waste of money in the IT department and both a standards-obsessed group making employee lives more difficult and a holier-than-thou team. Wow. Does that sound familiar to anyone else? I'm seeing yeses.
Yeah, I think that's most organizations, especially ones I come across. And I think I wrote something similar around it. It's just that I think it was one of my pet peeves, or the one that frustrated me the most, is that when the EA team is solely dedicated to the IT department, and it's almost like they're focused on keeping the lights on, or keeping the current state lights on.
Right.
You see it more often than not.
Unfortunately, this statement here comes up every semester. And this is from a statement from a previous semester. Where is the all of the above button? And this just epitomizes the current state in many companies. So I don't know. Hopefully you just didn't see that. So which do you think is the number one? What do you think is number one?
I think that the EA team being solely committed to the IT department is a problem that creates a lot of the other areas to suffer.
Right.
I'm from the business side, and I don't have an IT background, so everything I try to improve always starts from the business process side. So I think some challenges here maybe I haven't experienced as much.
I'm glad you're from the business side. Keep speaking up. David, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, keep speaking to us. So here we have some guesses. IT confused with EA, no communication, only IT. So what I did was I took your responses and I merged them with the responses of this survey with past semesters, and there's an N of 113. So 113 students in this program have completed this survey, or this ranking. And across those 113, this is what it looks like. So I took the first, I took the first, second, and third responses for each of the 13. So for those that ranked it first, second, or third, and I just, to show all of them, 34% of 113 ranked it as the number one problem. And if I look at the top three, if it's in the top three, 61% ranked no link to business strategy as one of the top three. 61% ranked that. The second highest